So hopefully that shines a little bit of a light to another side of the debate.
No doubt about it.
Now, we've had the absolute joy of meeting all the nominees, the state nominees for the Australian of the Year, and of course that has come to an end, and we're joined today by the nominee from Western Australia. And the winner will be announced this Sunday, of course, on Australia Day, but it is a delight to welcome to the studio Professor Bruce Robinson, the WA nominee. Bruce, thank you so much for joining us. Lucky last, we might say.
It's actually announced on Saturday, by the way.
Saturday, I was going to say it's the day before Australia Day. I did know that. Look, just looking at that story that I went out to the gyms, and it's been on the front pages of Sydney newspapers. I know it's a big issue in Perth as well, where you are from. This is something that's been a passion of yours, and one of the reasons you've been nominated for this award, really looking at this problem of binge drinking and these young men that seem to be without direction.
Yeah. Well, I noticed, and I've also noticed in New South Wales they've instituted some new laws to try to deal with this. And I think that's great, but for us in the Fathering Project, it's like mopping up water, whereas they should be turning off the tap. And that tap is having a strong and appropriate father figure. I think that there's no real evidence in terms of violent behaviour and fathers, but the two things that drive violent behaviour, there's a lot of evidence. One is substance abuse. That's binge drinking and drugs, especially amphetamines. There's a strong link there between fathers and substance abuse. And secondly, risk-taking. You know, that voice in your head where even if you've had a bit of alcohol, there's something in your head says, you know, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to whack that policeman or that guy, or if there's a group of guys, they say, come on guys, this is stupid, let's not do that. The voice in your head, let's not get in the car and drive when someone's had too much juice, you know. That voice in your head comes from both parents, but kids look to their dads for that sort of information. It's a very powerful force.
Bruce, with the Fathering Project that you have instituted, that you have driven, why has it taken so long for our community to recognise the absolute need, the imperative of strong, stable father figures for not just boys, but for the rest of the community?
Well, I think in the whole history of humankind, it hasn't been necessary because kids have grown up with dads around. And when dad wasn't around, with grandfathers and uncles, and it hasn't been necessary. But then dad started to go off to work, and no longer were children around father figures all the time. And as a consequence, now they're pretty much around women at school and that sort of thing. And it's taken us a while to realise that all kids need some father figure input in their lives. So it's a fairly recent sort of change to the way we live our lives.
So we've recognised this, we know this, and yet blokes are working longer and harder hours, there are greater expectations on men, puts guilt back on men, perhaps speaking as a father of two boys myself, that you feel like I'm the breadwinner, but I also want to be the sole provider, as in S-O-U-L provider. I want to help build the souls of my children. It's a tough gig for fathers these days with this balance of expectations.
Yeah, no, that's well said, because once you realise you're important as a dad, the next thing you know is you're going to feel guilty. And the sad thing is, and we don't criticise dads for, obviously, for earning money and looking after the family, if that's what they're doing, why they're not spending time with their kids, but we want to give them skills because they love their kids and they want to, as you say, do a good job of being a dad. So the Fathering Project essentially gives guys tips on how to do that. So, for example, one of our tips is dad dates, where you take your kids out for a date, one at a time, and you listen to them. You've got 5 kids, that's 5 separate dad dates. And you sit there and you just listen to them. And you start that right from when they're young. So when they're teenagers, they want to talk to you. I mean, my daughter once said to me, she phoned and said, oh, Dad, you know those dad dates, and we haven't had one for a while, and you've been trying to angle for one. I said, yeah. She said, oh, I'd like one pretty soon. I said, sure, when would you like it? She said, what about now?
So she really needed you?
She wanted to talk about a boy, a guy, had a guy issue, and I thought, oh, how great is that? It's because we've done them ever since she was a kid, and that's been a real winner. And that's just one example of ways that the Fathering Project helps dads to know how to turn their sort of guilt, I guess, into something that really does work for kids.
So meaningful. We've had a lot of people on Twitter this week and on email talking about boundaries and the lack of boundaries these days, and I'm astonished at how children speak to their parents, how they speak to people in authority. We would never have spoken to teachers, parents like that. What about those boundaries? There's obviously that need for commitment, but have we let those boundaries disappear because we don't have the time for them?
Yeah, I'm not sure that that's about time. I think it's about teaching children respect. You know, so for example, just again asking about father figures. If you think about bad behaviour at school, that is, kids who have bad behaviour towards teachers or other pupils, but particularly towards teachers. If they have no significant father figure input, they're 8 times more likely to have that behaviour. 8 times. That's allowing for all the other poverty, you know, etc., etc. In the best research, 8 times more likely. So that's just an example, really, of how when a father speaks into a child's life, they develop a set of values, and they don't do it.
Bruce, before we have to let you go, you're also renowned for your work with asbestos-related cancers, for helping patients there, and for natural disaster patients and victims. In fact, what's been said about you is that you turn compassion into action. If you are the Australian of the Year, if you are representative of all of us, what will you do with that year?
I think... my feeling is that Australians are compassionate, whether it's for people with cancer, like you said, or kids who need father figures, or people who are suffering, let's say, overseas when there's a volcano or a tsunami or whatever. They're compassionate, but they don't know what to do. They feel the compassion, they don't know what to do. So I think I'm probably in the unlikely event that I'm chosen, I guess, I'm in a position where I can help them to see ways that they can express their compassion in action. And that's not only good for the people who are the targets of that compassion, but it's good for people. A businessman said to me the other day, "Oh, it's great that you're a doctor. When there's a tsunami, you can go up there and you can get your stethoscope and roll your sleeves up. All I can do is write a cheque." The truth is, there's lots more things he could do. And if he actually got onto the plane and came up with me and just did all sorts of things, his soul would be enriched himself, let alone helping people. So turning compassion into action, I think that's something I would probably be able to help Australians do.
Bruce, it's been delightful to meet you. People didn't realise you're also a leading lung specialist, a medical student teacher. That's just his day job, guys. Good luck and thank you so much.
Absolutely.
And thank you for your insights into this very vexing
Thanks
issue.
very much.
We do
Thanks,
appreciate
Bruce.
your time.
Joy to meet you.
Absolutely. Wonderful conversation. Now, we have had just the